No.
Welcome, everyone, to Eye on Privacy. Thank you for joining us. You are here with Jared Coseglia from TRU Staffing Partners, Eye on Privacy, examining the most important trends in the data privacy job market. We're so excited to have so many of you joining us today. We had well over 150 registrants, so thank you all for coming with us today. Again, my name is Jared Coseglia. I am the CEO and founder of TRU Staffing Partners. Our organization specializes in staffing and recruiting data privacy professionals all over the world in over 88 countries to date. And I am really excited because this is our second Eye on Privacy. It's a 30-minute powerhouse packed with job statistics, informational session to empower everyone to approach their job search or their interview process more informed and more excited and more armed with the information necessary to be successful in both of those efforts, whether you're hiring or looking for new work. And what's super cool about this webinar series is you'll get to hear from me, but you'll also get to hear from a privacy luminary who joins us every week to bring their insight and amazing experience and drive the Q&A for you and for us during these calls. And so I am pleased to be joined by the amazing Debra J Farber. And Deb, please tell everybody a little bit about you. And thank you so much for joining us today. We're so glad to have you.
I'm Debra J Farber, and I've been in privacy for about 18 years. Started out as a lawyer, never actually practiced, went straight into operationalizing privacy back in 2005, and have shifted my career left into deeper into the operations than into the tech. And I'm currently focusing my work on bringing privacy tech to market, as well as the burgeoning privacy engineering space. So I have a podcast focused on privacy engineering called Shifting Privacy Left Podcast. I encourage you all to check that out. And thank you for. I'm not sure if I'm a luminary, but I do appreciate the grand entrance and given that this is
luminaries light up the world, and
oh,
luminaries enlighten others. And in my conversations with you, you have always brought enlightenment to me about the privacy industry or community or process. I always learn when I talk to Deb, which is why she's here, because she's going to suck out of me the most interesting information that I have to offer and provide a lot of her own along the way. And I don't know if you coined the phrase, Deb, but when I think of shifting privacy left, I think of you and I think of your
oh
podcast. And I think it's more than just a saying, it's really a movement
yes.
that you are a leader of in this community. So thank you.
Yeah, it's evangelism. Thank you. Oh, I appreciate that. That was very kind. Shifting security left has been a mantra for quite some time. So really shifting into design, development, DevOps. Before data is even collected, right? It was before the data life cycle is considered. You need to think about the product development life cycle for where data might be housed when you do collect it. And so it's just addressing privacy earlier through design, architecture, development, research, all that good stuff. So I am really excited to talk with you today about this and to be a guest host. So thank you so much for inviting me here. I think my first question for you is a little bit around the economy. So the economy is improving, we hear, yet we still see really rounds of layoffs in the tech sector. It's really especially noticeable in big tech. And here I'm on the West Coast, and I look at that tech sector a lot more than some others. But I do hear that many privacy professionals feel stuck in their current role because there aren't really jobs they see they can jump to, or ones that look appealing to them. And so my first question is, where are the available privacy jobs today?
Well, we've
Feels
got
like
to
there's less
answer.
of them.
We've got to answer. We've got more than answers. We've got a chart with lots of metrics. So there's a lot of ways to answer that question, Deb, right? And one of them is by industry. Where are the jobs by industry vertical? And you could see some pretty dramatic changes between where the jobs were just 4 months ago versus where the jobs are today. And as you can see, 4 months ago, in terms of industry breakdown, a pretty disproportionate amount in big tech, and then really in the other highly regulated industries, financial banking and brokerage, government, healthcare, hospital. But what's been really interesting over the last 4 months is you've seen a lot of changes and a lot of shifts, particularly in financial banking and brokerage, doubling the amount of available opportunities. We can unpack a little bit why we think that is. Same thing with tech, decreasing almost 50% the amount of available opportunities, actually a little bit more. And then we're seeing places like automotive, broadcast and entertainment, and other industries that aren't even on this chart beginning to ramp up programs. Generally speaking, what this is signaling to us broadly is all walks of life in terms of what you do as a business are beginning now to consider privacy. And the bigger you get, the more deeply you're investing in privacy professionals within your human capital ecosystem. Or if you lie in a specific sector where privacy is in the spotlight, you are also tending to hire more people. But there are a lot of other ways to look at this too, which we don't show here, but we are going to reveal to everyone in our 2024 Data Privacy Jobs Report, which we are publishing the opening day of GPS, which Deb and I will both be at, and we'll be speaking at live together on Thursday morning in TRU's private suite. So come check that out. But we're going to release the Data Privacy Jobs Report, and it will also break down, which I'll share some stats with you now, because I know you have questions about this, Deb, where the jobs are in terms of role definition, where the jobs are in terms of geography, where the jobs are in terms of industry vertical. Is it law firm? Is it corporate? Is it software company? Is it consulting firm, service provider? So we've got data on all of that. I'll pass it back to you to tell me what you think the most interesting thing is to unpack out of where the jobs are at.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think the tech one is kind of obvious. We keep hearing about layoffs and, the investors are getting more money, but the leaders of organizations in tech are laying a lot of people off so that they can, have more money to give to their investors, basically.
Yeah, but it's not just that, Deb, right? Because if you look in November, 38% of the open jobs were in big tech. And I think what we have seen happen, what we're experiencing here is those jobs some of them got filled between now and March. Some of them got filled, so there's less of them.
Oh,
right?
That's interesting.
But some of them also didn't get filled and didn't get renewed for 2024.
I see.
Right? So there was a lot of potentially looking in Q3 and 4 of last year from some of big tech, and then a little bit of a pullback in 2024 over the last quarter, which is really what the March stats are driving, because these figures haven't changed a lot since late January, early February, which means the same jobs are still open and not getting filled, which is a whole other issue we can talk about.
Yeah, and we will.
Yeah,
and we will.
We'll get there.
I think the most interesting to me, because financial services and banking, it's like, okay, they're already really, that's not the most interesting, but they're already super into compliance and wanting to, they have a lot of regulators on them anyway. So I'm not surprised by it. And I can maybe think about some reasons that's pushing, that's doubling the number of privacy jobs. But what I'm most surprised by is broadcast and entertainment. Just because in my experience, along with retail, those areas seem to underfund privacy roles, or just, run a little faster and looser with how they're using data. Especially when it's like direct to consumer and it's not B2B, some of those forcing functions in a B2B capacity where, you need to go through like third-party vendor scrutiny and questionnaires and go through that whole process, has the effect of downstream, all those vendors having to get their privacy houses in order, at least, start to. So this to me is the most interesting. What do you think is going on in the broadcast and entertainment space?
Yeah, I'll be brief because I don't want to linger too long here because it's hypothetical, but I think it has to do with AI now being integrated into the use of B2C marketing initiatives, and broadcast companies and even airlines, which you see has ticked up almost 50%. I mean, it doesn't look a lot on this chart, but you go from 4 to 6 and you're like, okay, that's a 50% increase in jobs in that vertical. Same reason, right? These airlines are now at a place where they know they have to do digital marketing in a way that is more thoughtful, and more deliberate, even if it's a little looser in terms of how they wield and what risks they may take in those environments. But look, any environment where you're going to take more risk, you're going to want experts giving you guidance as to what the potential outcomes, positive, negative, business risk, business revenue outcomes, just as much as what do I need to do to be compliant.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think you're right. I think that all of the changes, the promulgation of more and more state privacy laws with slight differences, it's not going away, right? And then with AI being at the forefront, it is interesting to see how, I mean, even IAPP is advocating for privacy professionals kind of moving into some AI governance and AI oversight roles. And so, I could see that confluence coming together there in the broadcast and entertainment space.
But just to be sure, AI is not where the jobs are, not yet. We're
Yeah,
far from it. We're not there yet. It's going to take another year or two before those codify.
that's helpful to understand. Yeah, no, I just mean there might be some like overlap in
Definitely.
the ethics or
Yes.
the posturing. How do you think about risk to the consumer and embed that into the business?
What should we be asking third-party vendors whose technology we're potentially utilizing for ad tech and digital marketing distribution? What kind of contract language should we be having in there around AI? How does the AI EU Act now impact our global business strategy? All of that we're starting to see percolate, but it hasn't quantified into, we need someone who just does this. And it won't until we see more regulation, quite frankly.
Right. Regulation or enforcement. I think another thing that could be driving this is the FTC really is, becoming more of an enforcer, right? Like they are not playing around. There's been a whole, and my next episode, not today's that came out. My next episode of the Shifting Privacy Left is with Heidi Sass, and we go over like 5 different recent FTC enforcement actions that are pretty significant, and shows that you really have to have more nuanced expertise on staff in order to avoid not only fines and public shaming, but 20 years of audits, right? Like there's a lot. So I could see especially privacy counsel, general counsel wanting to bring on, at least in the legal respect, more expertise there. And then that'll have the cascading effect of them going, wait a minute, I need some people on my team that better understand the tech and that we're doing what we say we're doing in our notices and our contracts. And so I need someone that's actually more embedded in the business. So it could also be showing the maturity, slow maturity, in my opinion, but still maturing of the market as a result of all this increasing enforcement.
Correct. Let's keep moving.
Let's do it.
So this one is near and dear to my heart because it leads us into the next one, which is essentially what's important to look at here. Well, for data privacy people, money's important, but it's not the most important thing. And I think when a lot of hiring managers go to market, they think compensation, what are my ranges? Let me get that information from the market, and then now I can go to market and look for somebody. But it's much more complicated than that, particularly in a post-pandemic world. I'm of the belief that the shift into primarily working from home versus primarily in an office after 2020, after COVID, is probably the most impactful change to the human workforce since the Industrial Revolution. Our world will never be the same. And as you can see, the number one reason why people in privacy come to us for 3 years in a row has been, I want to work more remotely from home. Whether that's I work 5 days, I want to go 3, I work 3 days, I want to go 2, I work 2 days, I want to go 0. Wanting to work more from home is the number one reason why people come to us. And largely it's triggered by changes in their current employer's policy that now drive them to seek other employment. But wait, there's more. If you look in the top motivators for 2023, you'll see something at the bottom that is not anywhere else, which is burnout. Burnout wasn't in the top 5 until Q4 of 2023. It was so strong, the amount of people that were coming to us in Q4 based on burnout, that it made the top 5. And let's take a look at the top 5 motivators so far in the first quarter of this year. Burnout has now topped for the first time in 4 years. It is now more of a motivator than working remotely from home. What we're finding is because so many of the jobs, we're going to unpack this in the next slide, because so many of the jobs are no longer fully remote, but more hybrid, higher amount of hybrid, lower amount of fully remote compared to 22 and 21 and 20. People hired a lot less people in 2023 than they hired in 2022 and 2021. Hiring less people means leaning on your existing staff
Right.
and doing more, expecting more hours. And look, it's
With
not just
less.
hours, but it's the intensity of the work. Because as you said before, Deb, these programs are maturing. They're moving from build to maintain to maturity. And as they do that, the demands are not just time spent, but it's more intense time spent, right? Making bigger decisions, giving more important guidance, more being at stake for the business and for the people in those jobs, and they're getting burnt out. They're not getting the support they need in terms of additional human resources. And the top 5 motivators really show that people are saying, if my employer can't get the resources I need to look elsewhere because I'm at that breaking point. And that's where we're at, generally speaking, as a community right now.
I think this is so important. I honestly think, I mean, let's think of the mental health of the community, right? I mean, it's I've had the burnout earlier on than 2024. For me, it was along the pandemic, and just a constant flow of more compliance added to my plate when I was supposed to be working on strategic privacy by design. But we couldn't get out of the hole of more and more compliance, and we weren't getting the resources that we needed. So I really empathize with this. And I'm sorry that it's a 2024, motivator for new jobs. It's tough because when you're looking for a job, when you're burnt out, it's even hard to make those decisions because you need recovery time, right?
Right.
It's like, well, who's going to give me like a month or 2 vacation before I could go and, start the job? And it's just not like that. So,
Right.
I think you're right that it's a matter of people are expected to do more with less. And I think that's because in organizations, there's really like a lack of understanding of what privacy professionals do and the value they truly add.
But
Yeah.
yes, but it's also, Deb, a trickle-down effect, right? Which we hadn't seen in 21 and 22. We haven't really seen this, what we call the trickle-down effect, since 2017-18, when everyone was gearing up for GDPR and privacy leaders were being sucked into meetings and sucked into strategy for the business about how are we preparing for GDPR. Well, last year in Q4 of 2022, AI hit the scene. And throughout the course of 2023, leaders in privacy were being pulled into conversations about AI that were not part of their jobs in 2021, 2022.
That's a
So
great point.
we started surveying CPOs, and one of the things in our report that we found was 15 to 25% of their time. We interviewed like 100 CPOs in Fortune 1000s. They all said that 15 to 25% of their time was used in AI. Well, that 15 to 25%, what did they not do? What did they not have the time to do anymore that then got pushed down to their deputies? What did those deputies not have time to do that then got pushed down to their program managers? What did those program managers not have? And it's this trickle down effect of we don't have the bandwidth to do all this, which has led to a couple of things. One of which is hiring a lot more contract resources in 2023 than in 2024, which I think is the next data point we have here.
Awesome. Let's go to that.
It's speed of hire.
Sorry. So this is such an interesting slide.
Yeah.
Because it really kind of shows you, I mean, the speed of hire. I've really never seen a graph like this before. Yeah. Why don't you unpack it for us?
Yeah. So in our jobs report at GPS, we're actually going to take this a layer deeper and break down for you the 6 major roles that we see hired most frequently in privacy and the speed of each one of those archetypes of roles. But for now, we've got contractors in the baby blue on the bottom, which is the speed of hire to bring on someone in a contract to hire capacity. As you can see, it stayed pretty much the same, which is kind of amazing, sort of all the way through the pandemic. Things have actually accelerated a lot in Q1 of 2024. I think we're down to like 7 or 6 days because the demand is so high for contractors, significantly higher demand for contractors than direct hire professionals.
Now, is that because of the flexibility that you have when to bring on contractors so that, you use them as you need them? And then, does it come out of a different budget? Like what are some of the reasons to use contractors instead of full-time?
Great question. Let me answer them in reverse order. Oftentimes, if not always, yes, it comes from a different budget. meaning not different budget, but meaning it hits the P&L for the business in a different way, especially at a publicly traded company. A full-time direct hire employee is a perpetual cost when analysis is done on the business. A contract resource is an outsourced cost, which doesn't affect the P&L and the way companies are valuated in the same way. So yes, that's why you see a lot of big tech companies firing full-time employees, stock prices goes up, backfilling them with contractors, stock price doesn't go down. So this is something most people maybe don't know about, but has been done since the 1950s. I mean, this is a classic corporate circumvention of valuation when it comes to human capital. Now, having said that, this middle line here, I'm sorry, let me go back and answer your question. Why is it happening? Yes, if the number one and number two motivators are burnout and working remotely from home, contractors at most corporations in particular are held to a different set of standards, just as they hit a different P&L, different way of hitting the P&L, they're held to a different set of standards and policies than direct hires. If we hire someone direct, they need to be in a state where the business is registered for tax purposes. Otherwise, we can't hire them in that state. So that's one reason why you see so many contractors hired. Hey, we fell in love with this person. They're in Idaho. We don't have an office in Idaho, but we want to bring them on. Would they be a perpetual contractor, meaning they might as well be a full-time employee, but they're not on the payroll of the company. They're on TRU's payroll. Or we can't find what we need where we need it at the price point we need it. What's available contract? Now you're opening up to a huge pool of candidates on a global level. And that's a reason why they hire contractors. Or, hey, look, this person wants to work remote. That's not our policy. We can't hire them direct, but we'll hire them as a contractor and they can stay fully remote and they're not going to be expected to come into an office in the same way. That's another reason to hire contractors. Now, to your earlier point about burnout, I can't take 2 weeks off and start another. Well, you're probably right if it's a full-time direct hire job.
Right.
But if it's a contract, you as a contractor have a little bit more weight to throw around in terms of what you're willing to agree to. And lots of our privacy contractors are fractional. Hey, we only need 10 hours a week from a CPO who's a fractional CPO. We don't need them 40 hours a week, and we can't afford somebody at a $300,000, $400,000 salary. We want somebody to give us guidance at a $300,000 to $400,000 salary. Oh, we could get that for half the cost on a contract or a third of the cost on a contract and just use them fractionally because we don't need them here 40 hours a week. That's another reason why you see so many contractors being hired.
That makes a lot of sense. It gives a lot more flexibility. And so this is something that TRU Staffing, does, right?
Tons
of
of contractors. Yes. Yes. We have lots of people on our payroll all over the world, 88 countries. Yes.
Wow. That is impressive.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Privacy is everywhere. So what's interesting here about the speed of hire, because we got a few other things I want to get to, Deb, and I think this is really important for hiring managers to understand. If you go back once, you see these numbers circled in red. The reason we provide those numbers, the top bar is for CEOs, the middle is mid-market, so your engineers, your analysts, your program managers, the top is directors, VPs, CPOs. These numbers circled in red are what we consider to be the new normal, meaning this is how long you as a hiring manager probably have until whoever you're interviewing at that time is likely to get other offers. And why is it important to know how long until the people you're interviewing are likely to get other offers? Well, now we go to offer acceptance likelihood. We did an analysis on our candidates that we represented, and sometimes we represent them, they take other offers not through us. We did an analysis of, did they take the first, second, or third or more if they had multiple offers at the time that they departed their employer and gave notice? Which offer did they take? Well, if you go to 2022, you can see that only 45% of people took the first offer. But if you go to Q1 through 3 of last year, 80% took the first offer. Why? Maybe they didn't have a second or third offer the way that everybody had 2, 3, 4 offers. Maybe they weren't willing to wait for the second offer because they had a good one and they liked these guys and they liked that the employer moved deliberately, so they took it. All of this is true. It matters if you're the first offer a candidate receives right now. Even in Q4, as the market has begun to repair and get better and there's more jobs available, it's still at 65%. So you got a 2 out of 3 chance that they're going to say yes just by being the first offer. You could see second offers ticked up, but third offers ticked down because, quite frankly, not many people are getting 3 offers at the point of hire in this market. But we give this speed of hire metric to people because you've got to run a search process that is in tempo with the pace of the market, or else you're going to be restarting your process potentially every 40 days, 90 days, every 10 days. And maybe worse, you're not restarting your process, but you're now choosing to hire your second or third choice, which is never an ideal scenario. Either way, that extension of time in order to backfill a job is costing companies hundreds of thousands of dollars in outsourcing to outside counsel, outsourcing to consulting firms in order to cover the time it takes to fulfill those needs that aren't being fulfilled while that search takes an inappropriate amount of time.
Right. That is fascinating.
Deb, this just takes us back to remote versus hybrid and shows you the amount of jobs year over year. I love this chart because it's literally a mirror image, and you can see just how impactful COVID was on the nature in which we all work physically. What's amazing is the amount of hybrid jobs, which we classify as 3 days or less in an office, has gone up quite a bit since the pandemic, right? It's gone from 75 to 87 to 90% of the jobs. But here's what's interesting. That dark blue line, 67, 65, 32, those are the fully remote positions. Now,
the dark blue is fully remote?
Fully remote. Those like really dark in 21, 22, and 23, and 24.
Oh, that one, that really, really dark. Got it.
Yeah, that's the amount of fully remote jobs in the hybrid category. And what's been fascinating is you could see, 2/3 of the market is fully remote in 21 and 22. And that drops to 1/3 of the amount of jobs. People are trying to force a return to office. They want more hybrid, not the job seekers, the employers want more hybrid than fully remote. And the people who are in fully remote jobs are holding on to them and not vacating them, which is causing a lack of new jobs to be available that are fully remote. So when they do become available, they are coveted and they fill much faster than a job that's hybrid or in an office. And we go into like immense detail in our job report about all of these metrics. And I'll close quickly because I know you have a question and I want to leave a few minutes for other people's questions that we might have in the chat. That you'll see we're projecting in 24, it goes up to 42%. Oh, Jared, why is it going to go up? I thought you said everybody's holding on to the remote jobs. Well, that's because, as we said before, there's going to be more jobs hired for contractors this year than full-time direct hires. And more contractors are going to be remote. And so the amount of remote jobs actually filled, not advertised, but filled, will start to go up because people are going to hire more contractors than they are full-time direct reports this year.
It makes a lot of sense. I wonder, have you done data on like the number of jobs that have gone unfilled?
Yes, it's a little harder to do that. The way that we measure that is how long jobs stay open. And then we're actually tracking when jobs get pulled down and then reposted by organizations pretty rigorously. And what we have in our jobs report, I don't have it with us today, is what we call the DIY speed of hire. So there's a whole section in our jobs report that will get into TRU's speed of hire, which is what you've seen today. And the DIY speed of hire is what an organization's speed is from the time they post to the time they fill a job if they don't use a third-party agency, right? Because a lot of our customers who use this in 21 and 22 were not able to use this because they weren't given budget or approval in 2023. This was systemic throughout the entire industry. And so we've watched them try to fill their jobs without us. And the average length it takes is between 3 and 5 times. So if it takes us 30 days to fill a privacy analyst job, sometimes a little bit less, it's taking most of our customers or people who are not our customers who we're monitoring, who we know someone who wound up getting the job eventually. Hey, how long did it take? It's generally taking them 90 days to fill what takes us 30. How much time, effort, energy is lost during that time, how much outsourced cost to outside counsel and to consulting firms is spent instead of just filling that thing in 30 days and getting it done.
Wow, that is really fascinating. I know I just can't wait to crunch the data once the report comes out. And I know we talked about on my podcast when you were speaking on it. Oh yeah, there we go. We talked about and dived in a little more on some of that topic. So if people are interested, you could check out my podcast. Here's just 3 episodes that are coming out soon. The one that's first listed, personal CRM, embracing digital minimalism, and privacy empowerment came out today. And then this is what's coming up. So check it out.
Check it
And then
out. We're
go
at the
ahead.
half hour. I'll
Yeah,
hang out if you will, Deb, for another 60 seconds and do some
absolutely.
rapid fire
There's
Q&A for anybody that wants to stay with us. I know we've got some questions.
Yeah, we've got at least one where there's actually, if we could go back to the first slide on the different industries that have been hiring for privacy. The person wrote, Deja wrote, I am very surprised by financial services and banking. Most of the state privacy laws, omit or accept the financial services businesses or personal data that's subjected to the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act. So, perhaps it's CCPA and CPRA that covers employee personal information, but like what could be the driving reasons for
I'll tell you what I
financial
think. I
services
think it's a
industry?
little bit more inside baseball. And what I mean by that is banks like to hire people from banks. And so what I think happened in Q4 of last year, because we experienced this ourselves, there was some movement in the banking sector and privacy, meaning 3, 4, 5, 6 people change job in one city, and that opens up 3, 4, 5 more jobs for people to come fill. And because financial banking and brokerage tends to hire from within its own industry ecosystem more often than not, it's musical chairs. So when a lot of chairs are emptied, those same chairs get filled, and it creates a chain reaction of a bunch of musical chairs inside that particular industry vertical. We used to see that in big tech every 3 months, right? Because big tech, Apple hires 6 people from Amazon, Amazon hires 10 people from Google, and like you see that kind of transactional human capital switch, if not every 3 months, certainly every 18. Right? I mean, most people's tenure, I think, in big tech is 2.5 years is the average tenure. So that kind of movement is something we see in certain verticals, and I think that's driving what we're seeing here in finance.
That is interesting.
Any
That's all the
questions?
questions we have. Are there any others?
Do we have any in the chat? There might be some in the chat.
Maybe what is the volume of jobs for 2023 versus 2024?
Oh yeah, I saw that pop up. That's the one I wanted to answer. So we actually did the research here, and I'll close on this since we're over time. We went and looked at the amount of jobs posted on LinkedIn, on data privacy jobs, at the IAP's website, and just through ourselves. In 2022, there were 44,000 privacy jobs posted online over the course of 12 months. I know Deb knows the answer, but guess how many were posted in 2023?
I don't know.
19.
Wow.
19,000. That's a 57% decrease in posted available positions for data privacy. Now, look, part of the good news is there are more positions than what were posted. And those positions are those contract jobs, because a lot of these contract jobs don't get posted, right? It's insider, hey, TRU, I need this, or do you know someone that can do this? Oh, you should meet TRU. They do contractors all the time. And a lot of that stuff doesn't get posted. So there are more jobs out there, but about half, probably about half the amount of jobs. So part of that is people are just not getting the budget and buy-in to hire the people they want, and the ones that aren't getting the right budget to get the right people that they need. And we really hope that these webinars, and we really hope that our jobs report empowers and gives everybody both the narrative and the data to go advocate for those jobs, and especially to advocate now, Deb, because if you hire now, you might get reasonably priced talent. If you wait until the market rebounds at the end of this year and into 25, you're going to find yourself in a more competitive, rising compensation, higher speed, faster speed of hire, and we'll get back to some of the metrics that we saw in 2022, 2021, and it became much higher to keep and hire talent at the pace that they were leaving and changing jobs. And that's what we see happening down the road, for sure.
That's really insightful. I've got another question here of
Yes.
how is it legal to hire contractors this way when they are effectively doing the same thing as employees?
Well, they are not. They are paid time and a half when they are run through TRU. So you are not considered a full-time employee in an exempt position. You are considered a contractor in a non-exempt position. So when you contract through TRU, everyone that works for us, generally speaking, unless you're on a flat rate, which is a different arrangement, most of our contractors are hourly employees. And as an hourly employee, you share the benefit of getting time and a half after 40 hours a week, or depending on the state regulations, it can be different, right? In California, it's by the day in terms of hours. It's different in every state. But generally speaking, after 40 hours, you get time and a half. And that's the difference from a compensation standpoint between a full-time and a contractor. You also get true benefits when you're a contractor, not the employer's benefits. And sometimes our benefits are better. We do 100% vestment of 401k contributions after your first year. Most companies, it's partial vestment over 4 to 5 years. And we match that up to 4%. So, you know, if you put $5,000 in your 401k, we're going to match that 4%, and you get it tax-free at the end of the first year of your contract with us, no questions asked.
Got it. So it sounds like you just there's legally there's a difference between a contractor and an employee, and you are fully, you're not even walking the line. You're fully in the, you do the things that a contractor would do. I'm seeing another question here.
Sure.
I'm seeing literally every job at the mid-career level that fits my skills with 100+ applicants within hours on LinkedIn. Is LinkedIn still a reliable place to apply for privacy jobs? I'm also seeking fully remote work, and the last job I interviewed for wanted hybrid.
Well, as we've said, there are a lot less fully remote jobs. So you've got your work cut out for you trying to find it when there are literally 2/3 less the amount of available remote jobs. And most remote jobs will not be for entry-level talent. They'll be for very experienced talent, or at least semi-experienced talent. As it relates to applying on LinkedIn, it's a very complicated answer, which I'll give with an exemplar from our business. We get well over 10,000 resumes a week that come into our business, well over 10,000, not just for data privacy, we do security and e-discovery, but 10,000 applicants a week. I can tell you, we do not review 10,000 applications a week, right? We cannot do it. And I can also tell you that probably 9/10 of those are resumes for people that are not in an industry, that are not the appropriate person for the job. They're not, you know, they're construction workers, they're waiters, they're bartenders applying to be chief privacy officers. I mean, you'd be shocked at the amount of garbage that comes.
Wow, that's insane.
Because LinkedIn has created this, you know, a number of features that allow people to go through like they're on a dating app and just click, quick, send resume, send resume, send resume, send resume. You know, and we've complained to LinkedIn about it because it doesn't help anybody, right? What it does do, and what it has done, and this is where AI is really part of the job search process, is it's forced employers and us to smartly configure how they use technology in order to help filter resumes. And the God's honest reality is most corporations have not spent the time, effort, energy, or have the proper technology, or have taught the AI technology in an appropriate, whether it's compliant or industry-specific subject matter expertise perspective, how to parse resumes. We are experts at this and are able to get all the cream to rise to the top, so that if you apply to one of our jobs on LinkedIn and you're not even qualified, but just in the industry or ripe to make a move into the industry, you're going to get noticed. You may not get placed right away, but you're going to get noticed. But let me also share another statistic, and I know we're way over time. We did an analysis, this is also in our jobs report. We did an analysis of how many of the jobs we fill, and we fill hundreds and hundreds of jobs a year. We went and looked at 10 years worth of placements in privacy, and we looked at how many jobs that we fill that are from an inbound resume coming in from an online job posting. And what we found is that of all the placements we've made over the last 10 years, only 17% of those placements were because someone sent us their resume to some job posting at some point. Of that 17%, only 8% of those inbound resumes are getting the job that they applied for.
Wow.
So either 92 or 83% of the time, jobs with us are getting filled by people who are passive job seekers, who are not sitting there applying online to jobs all day long, who are looking for smart representation, or who are not looking at all, who we go out and recruit, or who were given to us by a trusted referral. We get a lot of referrals from people that are, you know, friends and in the industry, but they're not coming from inbound job applications. So if you're a hiring manager and you're relying solely on a DIY staffing approach that is solely focused, whether you're posting it or your HR team is posting it, on online job postings, how much of the marketplace are you really seeing? And how much of the marketplace that's getting the jobs when an agency is engaged to find the best possible talent are you seeing? And the answer to that is somewhere between 8 and 17%, which is really, really low.
I have one more question.
Yes.
Two separate people have asked about, I'll combine them, about IPP certifications and how helpful or not they are, because they're basically saying it doesn't seem to be as helpful in getting me a job. Is it just table stakes and you need one? Is it that it's irrelevant? Is it that it's, what's going on here?
It is definitely not irrelevant, and the knowledge base is critical, and it is the best codified source to get that knowledge base, hands down. Having said that, we've moved from an industry of builders to an industry of some builders, but a lot more maintainers, and some maintainers, but even maybe more maturation of privacy programs. And as we've done that, it has become table stakes for a lot of employers, particularly ones that don't have a privacy program, where they're looking for someone to come in and build something. It's an assurance to people within the business that don't have privacy that you have been certified, yes. When it comes to more mature programs, I think there's less of an emphasis on it's a must-have and more of it's a nice-to-have, or it's a leg up against others you might be competing with. But by no means has it become irrelevant. And certainly if you are new to the industry and trying to break in and you haven't done that work, it's probably the first question someone will ask you is, well, why haven't you gone to go get certified, as a first step? And, you're kind of set up for failure if you get asked that question. Unless you're like, I'm registered and I'm studying and I'm taking it on this date. And if that's the case, I give people the guidance we do, put it on your resume. Right. Estimated, exam date on this date. I'm going to take it at GPS, in April. And then employers can say, oh, they can see the self-investment. They can see that you're doing it. And then the question on the interview doesn't become, why aren't you doing this? Or have you thought about doing this? And rather it becomes, oh, how's it going? What are you nervous about? And now you're like engaging on a more enriched level with potential hiring managers.
That's excellent advice. I think that the person who asked that's excellent advice.
I know we're way over time. I saw one more question I want to answer about conversion of contractors.
Great.
What was that question, Deb?
Oh, there was one more about conversion of contractors. I
thought I saw something pop up about.
Well, answer the question you thought it was.
Well, I thought somebody said, how often does it? Yeah, what percentage of contractors convert to full-time direct hires? Thank you, Grace.
Oh, it's in the chat. There we go.
Yeah, a great question, Grace. Let me answer it for you because I know the exact answer. So in 2023, we saw between 2023 and today so far, 38% of people who started contracts got offered a conversion. Highest percentage we've ever seen, which signals to us people didn't have approval to hire direct. They got the approval to hire contract to hire. And once that person became integrated in the program, they were able to more easily make the case for a direct hire to convert them. Here's another stat that'll blow your mind, which is also unheard of. 95% of those people accepted the conversion.
Wow.
Unheard of.
That is unheard of.
So many of our contractors are often fractional or impact based, like, hey, we're moving into Latin America, and your lawyer is going to come and get us up to speed on everything, or, hey, we just moved into China, I need a people person, and, or, hey, we're building a product and I need an engineer to help us with this, and then I don't need them anymore. But last year, we saw much more of the contract to hire approach as a means with which to acquire talent, which is new. And we're going to see a lot more of that this year too.
Wow.
We're already seeing it. All right, we have to stop.
Numbers. It was a lot of information. I hope this was helpful to everybody. I mean, certainly I learned a lot. And I know we're going to be iterating on this. You're going to have this detailed jobs report. So everyone look forward to that. If you're not going to GPS, it's still going to be like April 2nd, April that you're launching it.
Absolutely.
So look out for the from TRU Staffing Partners, the launch of that or the publishing of that report.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Deb, for being our guest host. You were amazing. I could talk to you all day long. And thank you everyone for joining us, and join us again in a month. We're going to do one after GPS. Our host then will be the amazing Aaron Weller out of HP, who's just a delightful, insightful human being. Join us then. We'll see what Aaron has to say to pick my brain, and we'll be presenting all sorts of new stats on the first quarter of this year.
Well, thanks for letting me guest host. This was so much fun. Bye, everyone.
Deb.